Welcome, everyone, to Friday Night Young at Heart, featuring nursery rhymes, stories, songs, poems, Mother Goose, Aesop's Fables, Lewis Carroll limericks, larks, stories of the great operas, epics, and such, to keep us all young at heart. I'm Father James DeLucio in the Paul's Fathers Library of the Rectory in New York City. And after a brief hiatus, because I forgot last Friday what day it was, this is happening a lot, I'm here tonight on Friday, June 10th. And I have some wonderful Aesop's Fables for you. This one echoes a very famous biblical passage you will find in Isaiah chapter 11. Which came first, this Greek tradition or the images that the poet and prophet Isaiah brought together? I think they're older than both of them. Isaiah, the 8th century, Aesop, the 6th century BCE, before the Common Era, or for us Christians, before the Christ. All the same, it's good to know that at the heart of humanity is a longing for something better than the world as it is. Here we have it, the royalty of the lion. A lion who became king didn't get angry and was neither cruel nor violent, but gentle and kind, like a good man might be. During his reign, the Lion King called a general assembly of all the birds and beasts for the purpose of sanctioning legal arrangements to bind the wolf with the lamb, to live together in perfect peace and harmony, as well as the panther and the chamois, the tiger and the deer, and the dog and the hare. At the great assembly, a hare was heard to say, "How I have longed to see this day. The weak can take their place at the side of the strong without fear. When justice reigns in the state and all judgments are fair, the meek may also live in tranquility." Aha, go to Isaiah 11, or some of the sermons of Jesus 500 years after Isaiah, and we'll get this beautiful image and this goal for all the world, told through a fable regarding to the animal world. Food for thought. Now this one's interesting. This one also has a biblical parallel. This one is called The Logs and the Olive Tree. You will find a version of this in the book of Judges, chapter 9, verses 8 and following. Write that down. The book of Judges, chapter 9, verses 8 and following. This one, though, these authors here in the Penguin edition of Aesop's Fables, translations, of course, they make a good case that this came first because it's meant to be a comedy. In the biblical passage in the book of Judges, it's meant as a serious lesson story for the people who have elected Abimelech, who is a horrible, horrible person, and he slayed 70 brothers in order to become the judge and rule over the people. They picked a very bad leader. This one is really focusing on, this one's focusing on the foolishness of logs who are calling for a tree to be their leader. And it's meant to be very funny, but it turns serious in the biblical event. All right, all the same, here we go. See if you find humor in this. I have not. Once, the logs were consulting among themselves to elect a king. They asked the olive tree, "Reign over us." The olive tree replied, "What? Give up my oily liquor, which is so highly prized by gods and man, to go and reign over the logs?" And so the logs asked the fig tree, "Come and reign over us." But the fig tree replied similarly. What? Relinquish the sweetness of my delicious fruit to go and reign over the logs? So the logs urged the thorn bush, come and reign over us. And the thorn replied, if you were really to anoint me king over you, you would have to take shelter beneath me. Otherwise, the flames from my brushwood, usual tinder, would escape and devour the cedars of Lebanon. Here we go. It got a lot of chuckles in the ancient world. This was considered a great little comic fable. Well, I guess they just thought it would be so funny that logs, which are dead wood, would want to have a live tree over them. Here we do have the silliness of the logs as the silliness of the people in the book of Judges. And in both cases, it's about people being foolish of who they're putting over them. Well, again, there is a little argument which came first, the chicken or the egg. But as I said, here they feel a comic story could be made more serious at the ancient world and even right down to today. But to make a very serious story comic, not so much in practice in those days. But you could make a case. Judges or Aesop. There you go. Thank you so much for joining me. It's good to be back with you. God bless and have a great night and a wonderful weekend. Good night.